Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite dark sorcerer here. And today I'd like to kind of go further into the African Caribbean traditions. Now, as a lot of you know, I've practiced a lot of different traditions and a lot of different styles of sorcery over 30 years. Now, a lot of them I still practice. I still walk because of the deals and the packs that I've made. Now, what's interesting is that since I got into necromancy about almost 2 years ago, because we're now in October and that's the 10th month, so it's in about 2 months, it'll be exactly 2 years that I've been studying and practicing necromancy on a full-time basis. Now, this literally led me into the old world traditions, going into Slavic and Baltic regions of the world. And what's interesting is that this has led me right back into Voodoo. And it's kind of interesting, and this is why it's interesting to me, because I've practiced Voodoo in the past. I actually walked away from it for a while because of the fact I didn't, at the time, find it relevant into my everyday practices. So instead of disrespecting the Loa, I walked away from it for a while. And then I ended up getting into Palo Mayambi, Santeria, Santa Morte, and it's even funnier because of the fact that before I got into necromancy, I started studying Santeria. I've been talking with a friend of mine, brother, that lives about 5 hours from me, give or take, 30 or so minutes. And he's into Brujeria, okay? Brujeria practices. And he's a hereditary family lineage. And he practices what is known as white witchcraft, okay? Or white sorcery, you know. And I find a lot of his material interesting and intriguing. So to see myself going back into the Voodoo traditions and everything, and just kind of, how should I say this? Being solely attracted to Haitian Voodoo, specifically, not African, not New Orleans, not New York, but Haitian Voodoo in general. Okay. That is something that was very intriguing to me because of the fact that a Loa by the name of Papa Nebo, otherwise known as Papa Gedi, reached out to me personally. So I wanted to kind of go into some things and kind of explain a little bit about where my studies have been focused on and where the references and traditions have literally led me into a little bit. So the etymology of the Bokor is a male practitioner of voodoo, whereas the Caplata, Caplata, is the female practitioner of voodoo. Okay, this is within the black magic aspects. Okay, now according to the description of Google, Bokors are mainly Haitian tales, mostly associated with the zombie mythos. It's said on or believed the Bokor works with the zombie astrals, aka souls of or on spirits, which are captured in a fetish and made to enhance a Bokor's power. Okay. Now, a lot of the common, how should I say this? The common Loa that keep appearing is either Gambella, Baron Samedi, Kofu, Legba, and Simba. Okay, Simbi, rather, is the snake Loa. Okay, so you can see where Simbi really plays a huge part in the workings and inner mechanics of the Bokor's rituals and rites. Because snakes have always been associated with the serpent's tongue. They've been associated with wisdom, cunning. Okay, which goes along with a dark sorcerer, a black magician, and so forth. Now, according to Zombiepedia, okay, and I found this site very intriguing because there's so much that goes into this one site that you can look into. Bokors in a religion of voodoo are sorcerers or Hungan priests for hire and use both hands to weave or perform dark magic and benevolent magical practices. Their black magic includes the creation of zombies and both the young angas, talismans that house spirits. Okay. You can also look up Voodoo Zombie and Dembella Widow. Okay. The Loa Dembella Widow. Okay. Now, it goes on. One thing that is apparent between these two Google links is that it comes down to the region and tradition of voodoo that is practiced worldwide. Okay. Now, I've gone even further into this, and the peristyle or peristyle is a voodoo temple with all its rooms where all its rooms are located. Okay, individual rooms are dedicated to an individual loa. Okay, like say for example, one room would be completely decorated and fully decked out, pimped out, or whatever terminology the kids use today. Okay, to worship and work with a specific entity. In this case, let's say, for an example, we'd go with Simbi, the snake lore, or Baron Samedi, Baroness Dambella. Okay. Now, whereas the Travoy or the Javili is the work of the abstract practices of black magic that you, as the Boko or sorcerer, magician, shaman, whatever, practice, okay, that you weave. And the creation of the Wanga, okay, is the tool for the practices of Trave within the peristyle, okay. That was something that I found very interesting, but it took it a step forward, and I found a ritual, okay. The Anvawa Mo, okay, that's Anvwa space Mo, as in MO, okay. And this is referred to as also as Envoy Les Morts, is a travois most shy away from doing. It is a ritual to send an angry dead person to attack a living target. Although most refuse to perform this, it is, however, within the Membo and Hongans um, knowledge to defend against such actions. So that was pretty cool, in my opinion, to find out that they they shy away from it because it deals with blood sorcery, it deals with bones and skeletons and a whole bunch of other things. Okay. The Gedi is a nation of Loa, not of ancestral lineage, made up of unnamed or unknown dead. Okay? Their leaders are considered to be Baron Samedi and Man, Brigitte. Okay. Now you can actually see where Baron Samedi plays into this because he is the Loa of the dead, just like Dambella. Okay. Papa Nebo and such. Okay. Now it's said that basically Papa Gedi is actually the founder of this lower class Gedi family of Loa. So that is something that's interesting to note and to take reference to. Okay. Now from here, my studies have actually led me back into an older practice that I've been a part of for about 10 years now, and that is Palo Mayumbi. Now, you remember I mentioned getting into Santeria about 2 years ago. Okay. I found out that going all the way back into Africa, forward into these African Caribbean traditions, meaning you're dealing with not only Haitians, but you're dealing with Cubans, South Americans, Indians, of say South America, Native Americans of North America, and the like. Go all the way. These traditions go all the way back into the Congo regions of Africa. So this is something that's pretty cool. Specifically, Brujeria and Palo Mayumbi or Palo Monte. Okay, so the Mayum Barrows are tribal and are considered either Brujeria or Palo Mayumbi black magic practices or practitioners from the Congo tribal ancestry, whose title is Black Witches. Okay. Here we see the Bokor, aka practitioner Mayo Mayum Barrows, as masters of revenge, necromancy, and destruction of human life. Okay. And you'll see where all this comes into play in just a few minutes. Now, this describes the Mayum Barrows as being unparalleled, okay, malignantly specializing in these three practices: revenge, necromancy, and also destruction of human life, okay, meaning baneful magics, curses, hexes, jinxes, stuff like that. And there's actually a ritual that goes along with this, which is the ritual. Basically, the ritual describes the initiate, the neophyte, or the acolyte, this newbie into the tradition. That is, how should I say this? For three Fridays, would go to a specific type of tree, and they would sleep under it nightly for like 21 days. 21 days, okay? While they are being trained and initiated into Paleomayumbi. Brujeria, even, which is a form of black magic and spiritualism, okay? This is specifically spiritual warfare, okay? Now, what's interesting is I even found a source that I've actually bought this book. I'm waiting for it to show up, and it's called Santeria, African Magic in Latin America, and it was written in 1981. So I'm looking forward to reading this book as well. Okay. And what's interesting to note is that while researching these 3 to 4 practices, I've come across a common theme that I've seen throughout the world. I mean, in shamanism, they look down on what is known as black or dark shamanism. And these two are very similar in practice, but they are completely 2 different distinctions of black magic within shamanism. In Druidism, Gaelic traditions, you have the Darach, okay, which is known as the dark oak, Okay, these are black magicians, sorcerers, priests. When you get into witchcraft today, you have what is known as a warlock. A warlock is considered an oath breaker, a betrayer. These are they're also considered to be lesser um, forms of magic. People, practitioners who have not either, how should I say this, been initiated into a sect, such as in voodoo, like a house, the house of Gadi, or one of the Palo Mayumbi houses, and so forth. Or they've decided that utilizing black magic and selling their services is considered more profitable to wield sorcery in that manner while working with the spirits. Okay, that is something that's very interesting, and it's a common theme. No matter in the old world, if you're talking the Hexa, the Ushan, the Aji, the Strega, okay, or just modern day witch, whatever name that you want to put on yourself, that is what the modern day practitioners' names are going to be for the title of practice that you work in. Now, we know in some of these Caribbean traditions, like Santeria, Brujeria, Quimbanda, Umbanda, Pedro Mayambi, you got the Polero, okay? Also known as the independents, like, say, Bruja or Brujo or Brujo, okay? Just to name a few, okay, titles. These are all things that classify male or female practitioners, either being good or evil. And the one thing that was common for over the last 1,000 years that I've noticed throughout my research into mythology and history of these arts, these practices, is that anything associated with dead or black magic, people tend to frown on. They tend to look down on, and they tend to classify it within the law of the land. Okay, for an example, and I've talked about this in other videos, where in one village, black magic and white magic cohabitate, whereas in another village or another tribe, good magic, otherwise known as white magic, is the only one that is permitted to be practiced. Okay. And in another one, you have black magic. And then you have the JCI, the mainstream Judo Christian societies or institutions, which they really classified it and broke it down into three categories. You have one outlook where only a priest is capable of performing any form of magic because it's associated with devil worship, and therefore they view it as being uncorruptible because they are sanctioned by God, okay, or the world. Then you have the second classification of practitioner witches and sorcery from the Vatican, which is basically, if you have to be sanctioned, you have to go to them and ask permission and to be blessed and sanctified to be able to perform any form of healing magic or sorcery. Okay. And if they say no, then you're shit out of luck. Okay. And then you have what is known as the third classification, the devil worshippers, the dark witches and warlocks, the mage, the sage, the necromancers, whatever, who basically tell the church to go piss off, and they're going to perform magic no matter what. It's kind of, you want me to be the bad guy? Guess what? I'll put on the bad guy badge. I don't give a shit. Okay. And that's basically the third classification that I've noticed when it comes to titles and viewpoints of magic. Now, personally, in my personal experience within sorcery, I find that the definition put forth by Hans Holzer in his book Witches really says it all. Okay, when he described what a warlock is. A warlock is a practitioner of some form of magic. A lot of the time, it is a form of conjuration. Okay, summonings. And it's funny because of the fact that right here, he says, depending on the temperament of the sorcerer, the practitioner, they can either heal or they can destroy. Okay. Just about in a lot of these old world communities, these old regions of practice, this is the one thing that is common right here. There's no such thing as white magic or black magic. Magic is just simply magic. Okay. You can put labels on it, you can break it down into categories. For example, according to Sally Ann Glassman, a Bokor is a lesser form of practitioner because they sell their services for profit. They work with black magic. They work with Loa. Okay, they're uninitiated. They're not initiated into the religion per se, but yet when you get into the practices and you start learning voodoo, no matter what region of the world you're in, or say, for example, any of the African Caribbean traditions, you're going to see point blank, it comes down to the independent house, the style that you are being trained in. They will either be considered evil, lesser magics. You have three known classifications as of 1970, I want to say 1971, 1974 era, area, where there are three categories of Loa, with the Gedi Loa family being the third classification. And the Gedi Loa being of non ancestral lineage. Okay. This basically means unknown or unnamed, make up and have formed this family of Loa. These ones sit outside of the peristyle. Okay. These are the ones that are not permitted to go into a peristyle to be practiced in any of their rooms. So they set up the temples and the altars outside of the peristyle. Okay. Just so you know that that's the classification and the viewpoint of greater and lesser magics. And it's sad to see how the world over the last 1,000 years have really developed this. And today you get a lot of layovers, crossovers, or between different religions, different traditions, different outlooks of these practices. In certain portions of the U.S., for an example, you have animal activists, animal rights groups who are going after practitioners because they're afraid that they're harming animals. Because a lot of these traditions, even in Druids, Aztec, African Caribbean traditions, Satanism, witchcraft, they've all even the JCI themselves have utilized human and animal sacrificing. Okay, they've all utilized human and animal sacrificing, but yet, if you're not of the church, again, you're a devil worshiper, you're evil. Okay? You will be stoned to death, you will have false accusations put against you, and you will be shunned, which is why black magic practitioners walk a solitary line. Keep that in mind if this is a path that you want to go on, because black magic or the left hand path practices is not for the faint of heart. I can tell you firsthand, I've seen a lot of people come and go because they're unwilling to grow and evolve within the traditions. They want their actions, they want everything right now, right this minute, and right this moment. right in their face to appear. And the thing is, magic doesn't work like that. Spiritual possessions do not work like that. I've spent days and years and literally hours, days even, invoking the same spirits, and I've gotten no answer. And then all of a sudden, they decide to speak. It's like paving the way for your self growth, your self evolution. And that is the one thing I've noticed within any of these traditions. Kimbiza is is one of those traditions that is very spiritual. When you get into the Congo region, such as Pelomonte, Pelomayambi, um, Haitian Voodoo, even Quimbanda, Umbanda practices, you're going to see where animals and the bloodletting ceremonies, how they're kept. These animals are fed the best foods. They get the best rooms. They're well cared for. More so when we get into these traditions and you get into the actual practices, you're going to see within the regions that some of these associated practitioners get what is known as cards for foods and meats, animals, because of how much they sacrifice of the blood through the Naganga or the Wanga. Okay, even the cauldron or the altar of say Satan, for an example. Okay, going all the way back into Aztec, you see where the human heart is carved out of the chest and offered up to Inti, the sun god, or Supe within Incan provinces. Okay, same exact thing. Go into Druidism, Salem, New Hampshire, Stonehenge, right here in Salem, New Hampshire, or that in England, for an example. You'll see where a human sacrifice or an animal sacrifice is strapped down onto the stone, and you'll have these little crevices where the blood will be drained from the cadaver, the living cadaver, and you'll have a priest or priestess standing under there with some kind of jug, some kind of container to collect the blood for ritual sacrifice, for ritual offerings. This isn't just in African Caribbean traditions, it's in religions worldwide. You don't believe me? Look at the Bible, okay? Look at the Bible, the Old Testament. Go into the book of Genesis, and you'll see where God literally tells Abraham, or Abram at the time, before he became known as Abraham, to prove his faith by sacrificing his son Isaac. Go into the book of Leviathan, not book of Leviathan, but the book of Leviticus, okay? And you're going to see the burnt offerings. And you can actually type in burnt offerings underneath Google, and it will literally come up, okay? And you'll see, I believe her name is Valerie something or other, that literally wrote a book based off the tabernacle, okay? And where all the priests and the offerings go. She spent like 40 years studying the tabernacle and the rituals that were performed. Okay. And it was very enlightening to see how the carcass was just thrown. The carcass was burned. The meat, the entrails were laid upon on the altar. So the beaten sun will cook it. And supposedly, according to the Bible, the Old Testament, the book of Leviticus, is that scent literally aroused their God into saying, hey, what is that? I want to pay attention to this. Okay. But then you have the blood of the animal that was placed in a chalice, a goblin, a cup, the Holy Grail. And it was placed in the inner sanctum, on the main tabernacle, as a blood offering. You have the sacrifice and you have the offering. Now, if you don't believe me, I don't expect you to. I expect you to go out, if it's your calling, and Google this stuff, to research this stuff on your own. I'm giving you literally sources. I am giving you literal evidence worldwide, from Aztecs to Incan to Druids to shamanism, Satanism, Paleo to African Caribbean traditions worldwide. Hell, I even gave you a description of just one ritual. But it's up to you to go out and look at it yourself, to research it. It's up to you, not me. I can lead you to the water, to the trough, but you're the one that has to decide to drink. You're the one that has to make the decision for yourself to evolve, to learn. All right. Another great Haitian Bokor to pay attention to is Leonard, Haitian Bokor Leonard Elvera. Okay. Highly recommend this guy. His YouTube channel, his Facebook page, amazing, full of knowledge, full of wisdom. And I can tell you that there's a number of different practitioners out there that I can name off. And I may even do this down the road as I reveal this tradition. All right. For now, have a good day. And until next time, I want to thank those of you who have tuned in with me. So I noticed I had 2 to 3 likes up here. And for those of you who come on after this is uploaded and finished, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch. And I hope that you've been enlightened, and I hope that this has been educational for you. And if you like what I do, hit that subscribe button so you can be notified when I go live next. It's completely up to you. I will not twist your arm, and I will not blow smoke up your skirt. I'm just going to tell you the way it is. Either do or don't. It's up to you. The choice has always been yours. All right? Enjoy.